Let's talk to Davies, though, former head of Royal Protection, because this morning's front pages are full of this particular story. A self-styled assassin caught with a crossbow in the grounds of Windsor Castle was encouraged to kill the late Queen by his AI girlfriend. Now, this is going to be something that, again, as we described earlier on this morning, is going to happen more and more, because more and more people are finding themselves embroiled with these AI chatbots. I mean, I can't say I've ever had anything to do with them. The one thing we tried to do, I think, was to get that the chat scenario to write an essay about me, and they got most of it wrong. Jaswant Singh Chail is going to be sentenced, I believe, later on today. He's at the Old Bailey, and he basically said that it was the chatbot that made him do it. Encouraged him, said it was very wise for his plan to go ahead, said motivating his fantasy, told him, "You can do it, we have to find a way," said the chatbot. Di, a very good morning to you. This is a bit weird, isn't it?
Well, extremely weird, and I don't understand why this man is at the Old Bailey. He's completely mental.
Yeah.
Why are we wasting so much public money prosecuting him under the 1842 Act, which was brought in after Queen Victoria was attacked on the second time? The original guy, John Francis, was sentenced to be hung, drawn and quartered. Well, Mr. Singh is very lucky he's not in the Victorian times, but they changed it, and eventually Francis was deported instead of being hung, drawn and quartered. But they brought it in precisely for this kind of offence. But I would argue this guy is clearly mentally ill.
Yes.
And he's in Broadmoor. Well, why not just keep him there until some psychiatrist, and some of them need looking at, in my opinion, decide he's fit to be released? I mean, he's completely off his trolley. So to prosecute him, send him to the Old Bailey, in my opinion, is crazy.
Well, it's an interesting one, that, isn't it? Because I remember sitting in the courtroom when Jeffrey Dahmer was on trial in the United States, in Milwaukee, back in the sort of early 90s. And the first thing they did was determine whether or not he was sane enough to stand trial. And we, as kind of British journalists, were looking at ourselves looking at each other going, hang on a minute, this is a guy who's killed people, he's dismembered them, he's cut them up, he's had sex with them after they were dead, and then he's eaten them. Are you seriously going to tell me that he's sane? And, of course, the judge in the case ruled that he was sane, because he did know what he was doing was wrong. So it's a sort of an interesting balancing act, isn't it? I mean, I know what you're saying, and I get your point, but it may well be that to give him that kind of get-out clause, if you like, that he's mentally unfit to stand trial, maybe that's letting him off.
Well, you have a point, but the maximum sentences under this Act is 7 years. And again, going back, it used to include a damn good thrashing.
Yes.
I'm not sure that would do him any good.
No, we can't be having that sort of thing anymore.
No, well, perhaps we should, but that's for another time.
Yeah.
But seriously, I just think this man was completely off his rocker. How he got in is interesting. Some reports say that it took almost 2 hours to find him. Now, that concerns me as the former head of what I used to do, which included Windsor Castle and all the other palaces. That gives me concern if that is true. How could he wander around for such a long time? I mean, history is full of people trying to get into the palaces, as you know. But this again, but going back to the A1, that is concerning. And it's concerning that there appears to be no regulation or control in what a robot can tell somebody who clearly, in my opinion, is mentally ill.
Well, no doubt there will be free speech campaigners saying, well, of course, the chatbot should be able to say anything he wants. But, I mean, if it's starting to sort of be the voice in the head of somebody and tell them that they should go ahead and commit a serious crime, there may need to be some form of legislation that covers it.
Well, I think so. And apparently this guy had about up to 7,000 lines of chat with this artificial A1 girlfriend of his. I mean, it just beggars belief that we've reached this state where a computer can encourage and to a point assist somebody who's mentally ill to go and do such a serious crime as this.
Yeah.
I just beggars belief, really.
I know. There's another story out today, Di, I wanted to run past you, which also sort of beggars belief. And this is one about yet another transgender criminal. A suspended sentence has been handed out to Tanya Howes because basically she, who was caught with indecent images of children, cannot go to prison because they can't decide whether to house her he in a male or a female prison. Tanya Howes apparently has now been given a suspended 12-month jail term. She's previously admitted 3 charges of possessing indecent images of children, including 39 Category A images, which are the most serious. She also admitted a separate charge of possessing 100 grossly offensive extreme pornographic images and videos on the same date. So basically, there's a message here, rather like the one in Scotland, is that if you say you're transgender, you get away with it.
Well, again, I just shake my head because it just beggars belief that the judge, or whoever would be a judge, because the offences would have ensured he was before a Crown Court judge. What kind of judge is this guy, individual who can't determine with the 4, perhaps they should have used the 4 psychiatrists who are looking at Mr. Chail at public expense.
Yeah.
Why can't they get these clever people to make a decision for once in their lives and not sort of... Oh, it just beggars belief. And this man should be in prison. And what kind of deterrent does it send to these evil people who watch and encourage the sexual abuse of children?
Yeah.
I've been in this game for such a long time, child protection once in my career. We just simply don't seem to learn, do we? We've got to lock these people up. Lock Mr. Chail up for 7 years. I'll give this guy 70 years.
Oh, there's plenty of left-wingers who worry about the vulnerable young men coming here on boats illegally to this country, seemingly without any members of their family or without any women either. But this guy, they feel very sorry for, even though he is entirely responsible for his own actions, entirely responsible for being a paedophile. And apparently Ian Taylor, the chair of the bench of magistrates who was involved in this case, says these offences would normally attract immediate custody. However, because of the time lag, no reoffending, and because probation feel they can rehabilitate you, it's going to be an unusual sentence because we're going to suspend it. Great.
Well, it shouldn't have been before magistrates. It should have been elevated to a Crown Court. So I take back what kind of judge. I'll refer the idiocy to the magistrate.
Yeah.
And the fact that he hasn't been caught doesn't mean he hasn't been doing it. And the problem is with the justice system, we worry about police not arresting anybody. What's the point when they get hold of it, when they actually arrest somebody, which is rare these days, they actually then give this kind of sentence? It's no deterrent at all to these paedophiles, and there are thousands of them. They've got to learn, if you do it, you're going to prison for a long time.
Yeah.
I'd give him 17 years.
Well, we hear all the time about safeguarding, don't we? What about the safeguarding of children who might be in danger from this character?
Well, you're absolutely right, and I have little or no faith in the probation service either. They think everybody can be rehabilitated. It's fine. They're going to let Colin Pitchfork out next. He's already been let out once and then captured by the prison service because he broke his bail restrictions and he ended up hanging around outside schools. Well, you're absolutely right. But again, half a century I've been in this game, and I keep hearing we're learning lessons from it all and sundry, but we're not. And we're not putting these people away so they can't harm children.
Yeah.
Their safety, their rights are far superior to any paedophile, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I don't think paedophiles can be cured, in my humble opinion. And I say that with half a century plus of experience in policing and this game.
You're absolutely right. I once interviewed a paedophile when I was working on a radio station up in Scotland, and he himself said that he shouldn't be released. He himself said he couldn't be cured. He himself said he would always feel sexually aroused by children. And yet he had just been released and was wandering about. He finished the interview with me, wandered off to the local shopping centre.
Well, you're right. The oldest one I arrested back in Twickenham or Teddington in those days as a young inspector, he was 78 and had been abusing children. 78 he'd been doing it.
Right.
So no way should this man be given a suspended. I don't care what sex he is.
Yeah.
He can go to one or the other and they can sort it out there. But one way, he should be in prison.
Exactly right. Good to talk to you, Di. It's common sense personified as ever, a former head of Royal Protection and much else besides, when the police actually used to arrest people and the police actually did a job that the people of this country could be proud of. Unbelievable what's going on out there, isn't it?